Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Maximum warp. Punch it. Punch it.
Punch it, Bishop!
Punch it.
Punch that shit!
Let's punch it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 22 of Punch It. My name is Charlene Schmidt, and with me, as always, is
Tristan Riddell.
We are here for part 2 of what we started last week, and that is talking about TV series finales that we either loved or hated, and of course, we've got to explain why we ran out of time. We were having such a good time talking this topic, as a matter of fact, that we just decided let's pick it right back up. And I don't know about you, but I've got another full list of series to talk about and fill out this installment.
Oh, I could go on and 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 on because we have decades and decades and decades of TV to pull from, and we only gave a handful in the previous episode, and I gave a lot. And so I am really interested to hear more from you and what you have to say and what shows you want to talk about, because there's so many different types of series finales. And I even just thought of one just now. Actually, right before we started recording, I listened to our last episode as a refresher so that I could remember what we talked about, what we didn't. There's one type of show that stop me if you don't agree with me here, but there's a type of series finale that is self-referential, where the protagonist or somebody in the main cast will go on and they will make a movie, they'll write a screenplay, they'll write a book, or something like that, and it's called the name of the show that you've been watching for 7 years.
Yes.
Like, the thing that's popping into my head right now is Dawson's Creek, where Dawson, at the end of the show, because Dawson is obsessed with movies, and he wants to become a filmmaker, and then they do a time jump at the end of the show, so the series finale is like a couple years in the future, and he gets a job being a executive producer and creator of a TV show called The Creek, which is what people would call the show in real life. Instead of saying Dawson's Creek, they say, "Oh, I'm going to watch The Creek tonight," or something like that. And can you remember any other time when that has happened? I'm blanking on examples right now.
Oh, gosh. I cannot think of an exact example, but one of the things on my list is the show Roseanne. And the series finale of that show, well, actually, let me go back just a little bit. The last season of that show, the 7th season, I believe, was completely unusual and a complete departure from what made that show a success. Because what happened was this working class family won the lottery, and suddenly they have the financial means to do pretty much anything they want, and it ends up ruining them, more or less. There's a lot of complication. But the thing is they took away the one thing that really made that show work, was to see real people dealing with real problems that a lot of people go through and understand, and the show it failed. It jumped the shark when they won the lottery. The very last episode of Roseanne, they kind of took the approach of, it was sort of just a dream. It was the brainchild of this woman who was writing a story, which is true. That is what the real Roseanne did. But also her character on the show Roseanne was doing the same thing. It's Roseanneception, I guess. And that really annoyed the living heck out of me, and still does now that I think about it, because what we saw, this whole show, it wasn't real. Well, screw you.
That's another thing. Like, that is another thing where that's totally a different type of trope. Like, it was all just a dream, like that kind of thing has a time and a place. Like, there was one Saint Elsewhere where all of a sudden the entire show, the entire universe of this show was inside the mind of a boy. I think I'm remembering this very poorly, but it was inside the mind of a boy who had autism, I think.
Oh, okay.
And like the last show, like the last episode, the camera zooms out and you just see him on the floor playing with his trucks and everything like that. And then you're just like, okay. And
wow.
Then there was another one where there was this one is probably heralded as one of the greatest series finales of all time, and that's from Newhart.
Okay, and have you watched this? Because I know it's one of the very best out there, and I never watched the show. It was kind of before my time.
I've seen a lot of episodes. I can't say I watched it regularly. Well, obviously I wasn't around, but it's a really good show. And it's what happened is that in the last episode, it goes dark. The Newhart show goes dark, and then he wakes up, and he's in bed with his sitcom wife from his previous show.
Oh my god. That's brilliant.
From the Bob Newhart show. Yeah, it was like, for the time, it was absolutely brilliant. Like, and the thing is, like, it was in front of a live studio audience, and that audience lost it. They just went absolutely insane.
In a good way or a bad way?
No, in a good way.
Okay.
And so Newhart he was being consoled by his wife. They're like, "Oh, don't worry. It was just a dream." And he ends it with, "Oh, okay, I'll try to go back to sleep." And then he turns to his wife and says, "You know what? You should wear more sweaters." And because the wife that he was married to in the show that they're referencing was very much known to wear crazy sweaters, and like she always had a sweater on in her costumes. And so it was all just a dream, self-referential, but perfectly executed.
Nice. And that's a thin line. You're either going to nail that, or it's going to be just an absolute disaster, and you're going to go down in infamy. And it sounds like they did the former, not the latter, whereas Roseanne flopped, fell out on their face.
I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
You're the Roseanne fan. I watched it here and there. I've seen a lot of, it's kind of like Newhart. I've seen a lot of episodes, but it wasn't regular viewing at my house. I kind of just saw reruns here and there. My family didn't really like it, but I found it entertaining. But I didn't keep up with it. But I remember where I was, I think I must have seen it live during that 7th season, because something happened where I turned it on, and then in one scene, Roseanne was on top of a train doing judo.
Oh, yes.
And like throwing people off the train. And then I see another scene, and she's like, "Oh my God," like I can't remember the name of John Goodman's character, but
Dan.
Yeah, Dan. Like, Dan was gone for a long time,
Uh-huh.
and he was gonna come back, and she was really nervous that he was gonna come back, and she's like, "Oh my God, so many things have changed. Like, I've killed a man," and I'm like, "What happened to this show?"
Yeah, it really went off the handle after they won the lottery. Like, that happened at the very beginning of the last season, and then things just really spiraled out of that, and they did some really weird, extravagant things, like being on a train and doing judo, and they went to a really fancy spa, and they got this Thai massage, and they had these weird, quirky people there telling them, you cannot eat this, and you can't do that, and blah, blah, blah. And of course, Roseanne tries to smuggle in candy or something. I don't completely remember. And then, I think it's Dan's mom, like, she was schizophrenic, and he was traveling back to California to go attend to her needs and make sure she was taken care of medically. And then all the while, he's having an affair. I mean, all sorts of things that just...
Oh, man.
It got really stupid really fast, and I think the ratings reflected that. It just wasn't the show that it once was. Now, in my house, Roseanne was a staple. I mean, I think it was one of my mom's absolute favorite shows, certainly of that time. Maybe it's one of her top of all time. But I think she really related to Roseanne just on a very basic level, being a working mom, raising kids, not necessarily having a whole lot of money, struggling to make ends meet. That was my family. And so, I think a lot of people love this show because they identified with those things. And when you just turn everything upside down and it's not what it is anymore, it's not fun.
That reminds me of the Drew Carey show.
Oh, do you think that jumped the shark?
Well, okay, here's the thing. The reason why it reminds me of it, and I'll get to why it reminds me of that, is that the Drew Carey show, I don't think they necessarily jumped the shark at any point, and I'm sure people disagree with me, but it went on for 9 seasons. That's a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for a sitcom. And with that, like, the whole point of the show is that he's a fat guy in Cleveland who can't get his life together.
And he's stuck in middle management.
Yeah, he's stuck in middle management, and his romantic life sucks.
Pretty much.
That's the premise of the show. That's the point of the show. Now, there would be times where there would be good times, there'd be bad times. Like, he'd get ahead, he'd get a promotion for a little bit, and then he'd get a demotion. And like, he'd lose his job, but then he'd get another one. But it would, it would always come back to that equilibrium.
Right.
And there was a few times where they did some experimental stuff where I think there was one half of one season where they ditched the laugh track and then went to a single camera comedy where it was no longer multicam. And I remember watching it going like, what the friggin' hell happened to the show? Like, this was weird. Like, it looked completely different. It was in widescreen and they were acting different. And I was just like, this is weird. This is weird. This is weird. And apparently the rest of America felt that way too, because they ditched that real quick.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm talking about this is that the series finale was, they went through this whole song and dance where, like, he worked for Winfred Lauder, excuse me, and he was in middle management, and like sometimes he would leave the company, sometimes he would come back, but it ended with him being a part of like a tech company and, you know, like being an up and comer and everything like that. And the tech company bought Winfred and Lauder, and that's why he worked there. They had some success. And then at the very end of the show, they had so much success that this tech company was going to branch out. And so they branched out into a department, to becoming a department store.
You gotta love the irony.
And they're like, we'll need somebody to work in human resources, and you have so much experience, so Drew, you got the job.
Yeah, he gets the same job he's always had. Now that's funny, and I gotta confess, I did not watch the very last, probably the last 2, maybe 3 seasons of Drew Carey's show, so I never figured out how this series ended. It's kind of fitting.
Yeah. The last 3 seasons were very, very weak.
Yeah, I kind of dropped off after this tech company bought Winfred Lauder, because I just thought, like, Drew, like, they were throwing him into roles where he didn't know what he was doing. He admitted as such and was getting away with it. And of course, this was happening with the .com boom, where I think a lot of people were doing this sort of thing.
Yes.
So it was relevant back then, horribly dated now, but not that entertaining. And the show definitely dropped off in terms of quality, for sure.
100%. Yeah.
Again, it's like you're screwing with the formula that made it work all this time. And I know you have to maybe change just a little bit to keep things evolving, but this was a big shakeup for the worse.
Yes, it was. And even though it's one of my favorite sitcoms of all time, it definitely petered out at the end. And I could keep going about self-referential and like Arrested Development, not even even the literal show of Arrested Development, but like the actual concept of Arrested Development in television. But I want you to keep going. So what's next?
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about a show that you and I both love to pieces, and that is The American Office.
Yeah.
Yes. In terms of a series finale, this was one of the most satisfying ends to a show. And especially after those last 2 years were really not that good. We talked about this already when we did our podcast on The Office. I'm so relieved, though, that after those 2 years, they bundled it up together. Those last few episodes leading up to the last episode were really good. Put everybody on their path to where, yes, things changed rapidly, but they were for the better and things were going to kind of be as they needed to be. And then that last episode kind of takes place, it's about like, what, a year after everything else?
Yes.
And this is one of those finales where you do put the pretty bow on everything. Everybody goes off and does exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Jim and Pam are living in a cool place. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, they both have amazing jobs. Michael has his wife and his children, and he couldn't be happier. Dwight and Angela, they're getting married, finally. I mean, it's all just kind of coming full circle. And so, yes, the show should have ended 2 years before it did, but at least they wrapped up on a really good high note. What are your thoughts, sir? I've just been spilling out joy about The Office.
No, I echo that completely, because we have talked about The Office a lot. I mean, we had an episode completely devoted to The Office and its writing styles and what worked and what didn't. And it was interesting to see, like, you know, them flounder so much in the second to last season, but then realize that they learn from their mistakes. Not a lot of shows do that. Not a lot of shows learn actually from their mistakes.
True.
And The Office did, where they had one season that was just complete garbage, and they're like, okay, guys, we got to regroup. We got to get back to what made us awesome. And there was a lot of redemption in that last season, and especially in the last episode.
Totally. It almost makes those last 2 years of suffering almost worth it. Like, almost. I mean, I don't own the season 8 Office DVD. I never watch it when I do a rewatch on Netflix. I just skip straight to season 9, and I'm more or less fine with that.
Yeah, and you skip around, even though like season 9 is much better than season 8, you still skip around.
I
in
do.
season
I
9.
do. Like the first 2/3 of that season, I can take or leave a lot of it, especially the Andy-centric stuff. But as you lead up to the conclusion of the series and it starts building in its intensity again, I'm like, yes, I love this show again.
Now, I mentioned something earlier about Arrested Development, and I'm not talking about the show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the concept. And one thing that automatically springs to mind is That 70s Show.
Yes. I had a cat, and longtime listeners know who Teddy is. He loved to watch this show. It was the one TV show that he liked to watch. I just have to throw that out there. He loved to watch That 70s Show. I don't know what it was. He would not watch anything else, but when he heard the theme to the 70s Show, he was just hooked.
He's all about it, huh?
He was.
I had a dog who would howl to "Are you ready for some football?" on Monday Night Football.
That's awesome.
Whenever that would come on, like he'd just go. Woo!
He was singing. Yeah. You know,
He was singing, yeah.
They're just like us. They're attracted to whatever it is they're into. My cats, well, one of them loves to watch Babylon 5 with me. Seriously, he hears the DVD start and he starts watching it. It's hilarious.
Well, just like Teddy, I like to watch That 70s Show as well. It's a show that is often in my rotation where I like to kind of have dual shows where I'll have a show that will start where it's new and we haven't seen it before, and it's something that we're actively engaged in. And then we also have a nighttime show that's good for, like you don't really want to be that invested and you want something on in the background and you can do other things, or you're trying to fall asleep. And That 70s Show is often that secondary show where you try to fall asleep, or if you can't think of anything to watch, that's what you're going to watch. Mm-hmm. And the show went on for 8 seasons, and it had about 5 good ones. And it was the pinnacle of, not the pinnacle of the show. It was the main problem with the show is that you had a bunch of teenagers and you set them in high school. Now, if you have a successful show, you're going to go on for years. And what happens with teenagers when it goes on for years and it's set in high school? They graduate.
Yes.
They move away. They leave their homes and they go to college. Some shows can do this better than others. Some shows are stuck in that arrested development. And this was a show that had a lot of unique characters and a lot of people who had drive and talent and abilities, and others who were stoners who just wanted to hang out and have a good time. And what happened is that because they did not want to change formats, because they wanted to stay true to what made the show great, they curbed people's development. They didn't let Eric go to college because they had Red have a heart attack, so he felt the need to stay home and take care of his dad and take care of the family. And so because Eric didn't leave to go to college, Donna didn't leave, even though Donna had like a writing scholarship and was incredibly talented and was going places. And, like Hyde and Kelso didn't even go to college. And I can't even remember what Fez did. And so it's just all these characters just stayed home and didn't grow, didn't change. And it was because the producers didn't know what to do with them. And Topher Grace was sick of what they were doing to his character. They were murdering his character. They were emasculating his character. They were neutering his character. There was no development, no growth, no fun whatsoever. And so he's like, okay, at the end of the seventh season, I'm gone. And instead of canceling the show, when your lead character, the protagonist, leaves, they tried to continue on and had an 8th season, and it was garbage. And they hired a fake Eric. Like, I'm not saying that they hired a different actor. They just hired a different person. They hired a person to fill that role, fill that void, and it was a horrible actor and a horrible character. And the series finale, I can't even tell you what happened in the series finale because I just didn't care about what was going on anymore. All I can tell you is that in the last 15 seconds of the show, Eric comes back and Donna and Eric share a kiss, and then it's 1980. And so that little segment I enjoyed, but everything beforehand didn't. And so I guess what I'm trying to ask is, can you think of any other examples of shows where you're just like, oh, this format works, and even though the format works and people are laughing, the characters are stuck in some sort of arrested development?
Yes, it's going on right now with Big Bang Theory. That show, I'm beyond done with it.
True.
So done. It has outlasted its welcome. It's not...
So true.
I mean, it's not entertaining anymore. I mean, it is just more of the same old crap we've always loved. And yeah, I think the point that we're making here with this conversation or this part of our conversation is that it takes a lot of wisdom for writers to know when to move their characters on and when to keep the formula that they are using that has worked intact. I think that's a very tough thing to do, for sure. And I'm not a professional. I don't know how you do that, but I think we have a lot of examples of this not working rather than actually working.
It's true, and that's the thing. And sometimes you need to end the show. But if you have a successful show, the execs are not going to care about the art or care about the integrity of the show. Sitcoms and TV everywhere. TV, the only reason TV exists if it's on broadcast is to sell you cars and erectile dysfunction pills. That's the only reason why TV shows exist.
That's
true,
it. And
man. Anybody who tells you differently has no idea how TV works. And one example that I can think of is Home Improvement, where ABC went to Tim Allen and said, "We will give you more money than God if you have a final season." And he said, "No, that would hurt the integrity of the show." And so they canceled. They didn't cancel. They ended the show.
Right.
And that takes extreme integrity, artistic integrity, that not a lot of people have.
Oh, totally. And nobody wants to get off the train while it's still rolling. If things are making money and you have success, it's really hard to say, look, no, we're going out on a high note and we're going out on top and we're going to stop here. I mean, how many shows are the victim of not doing that? Like The Office, like The Big Bang Theory, like that 70s show, like even Bewitched, going way back. Speaking of replacing actors, if you ever watch that show, there are two Darren Stevens, and it's a very distinct difference. It's not the fault of the actors. It's just when one of your leads goes away, you probably should quit.
Now, what else is on your list?
Well, let's talk a little bit about Breaking Bad, another show that we both love and has been sorely missed from this podcast up to this point. We both love this show.
It's true. We haven't talked a lot about Breaking Bad.
No, and it is one of my all-time favorite shows. I think it is one of the best written shows I have ever watched.
Oh yeah.
5 seasons through and through. There is only one stinker that I can think of. And so that's a pretty good...
Wait.
It's the Fly episode.
Oh, it's The Fly. I do.
Yep, I don't like the Fly episode. I know that that's a little divisive between Breaking Bad fans. I am on the side of that was a little too slow for me. I didn't like the break. I didn't like the constant talking.
Oh, I skip it every time.
Yeah, I just don't get enough out of it.
I love TV episodes that are all talking. I love movies that are all talking and dialogue and everything like that. But for this particular episode, I thought it was poorly done.
It just, I don't know. I don't necessarily mind talky episodes, especially where character development is concerned. But it was just way too slow. Not enough else was really going on to keep it interesting. Like, I'm in there for a good 20 minutes, but I really waver off after that when it's just, okay, You're going to keep doing this, huh? Okay, looking at my watch. You're still doing it.
Yeah.
Dang. And there's that stupid fly. Well, this sucks. So, Breaking Bad series finale. We kind of know a little bit about how it's going to end because Walt does not have that long to live. We know that. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily the fact that Walt is going to die. It's how he's going to get there and how does everything else pan out leading up to that. And also, and the big question that we really needed answered of this series finale was, how was Walt going to redeem himself for what little that he could at this point? Mm-hmm. Because the Walt that we start out with is certainly not the Walt we finish up with. And I don't know about you, but I really don't like Walt toward the end. He is a despicable, horrible person. He has destroyed everything, which is the message, at least one of them. But he does try to redeem because he's not a completely evil prick. And so we get to watch that play out. And yes, there is even more destruction, but it's for actually the greater good. And so it's kind of fun, and I find it rather satisfying, especially for this show. What say you?
With the series finale, I watched this live. I watched the series finale live because I never watched any of Breaking Bad live. except for the series finale.
Oh, wow. Ha, nice.
I went to my in-laws' house. They have cable. And so my wife and I were like, we got to watch this live because otherwise it will be ruined.
Oh, totally. Yeah, if you get on Twitter, everybody was going collectively nuts. I remember watching that in my Twitter stream as the show was happening, and I had not watched the show at that point. I waited until it was all on Netflix, and then my husband and I binged it for...
Oh, okay.
Maybe not quite even 3 weeks. We went through it really fast. We just could not get enough of it. We devoured it.
And that's the thing, though, is that, like, even if I don't go on social media, like on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr, or anything like that, I still had to go to work the next day. And everybody was watching this show. I know that there's people out there who are like, oh, I didn't watch it. No, when I say everybody, I'm talking about you could not throw a rock without hitting a Breaking Bad fan. Like, people were obsessed with the show when it was on the air. And so I was like, I cannot, if I don't watch it tonight, I'm going to have to call in sick. Like, that's what I'm going to have to do. And so we watched it live. And as I watched it, I wrestled with some things because I was like, okay, and I was like, this is good. This gave us closure. It gave us the right amount of closure. But it took me a couple of minutes, maybe a day or two, to realize that the climax of the show is not in the series finale.
Do tell.
Well, the climax is in Ozymandias. That's the climax of the show, where his brother, like, I guess I don't want to ruin anything because there's probably a lot of people who haven't seen it, but it's the shootout in the desert.
Oh, right. Yes.
That is the climax of the show, and Vince Gilligan is a craftsman when it comes to TV writing. He is aware that when you have a huge arc, one of the greatest arcs ever written for television, at least in the past 20 years.
Yes.
When you have an arc this well-developed and this satisfying, you need some downtime. You need an epilogue. You need some falling action, because if you look at it as one big story, which Breaking Bad is, it's one big story.
Totally.
If you look at it like a movie, the climax is not in the last 5 seconds of the movie. It's not in the last 5 minutes of the movie. You have to give the audience some time to rest, and that's what Vince Gilligan allowed us to do by giving us a few episodes after Ozymandias, but still giving us a cool moments in the last episode. And so that is when I was able to wrap my head around the series finale and realize that that's not the heartstopper. Ozymandias is, and this is the falling action and the closure.
Yes. Oh, you're absolutely right. And I don't know about you, but when I watched that episode and I'm watching the shootout, I mean, I still remember watching it with pure dread, knowing what was going to happen. I mean, and not because somebody spoiled it for me, just knowing things don't end well for people on this show.
Right.
So this is what's going to happen, and it's going to be painful. It's going to hurt, and lo and behold, yeah, abso-fraggin-lutely. Now, let's talk a little bit, just for a short moment, about the writing of this show, because you brought up the arc. It amazes me how, even though they did quite a bit of planning, knowing that they wanted to start a season in one place and then end it in another, it's not like they had everything really outlined episode by episode before they started actually writing. You know, they kind of did a little bit of both, where they had some ideas of where they wanted to go, but they still did it as they went along, which is incredible given the little details that show up in this show repeatedly, plus the overarching theme, and from start to finish, from season 1 to the end of season 5, this long novel-like story. I can think of only one other show that did this extraordinarily well. That's Babylon 5, and Joe Michael Straczynski did write out a very good portion of that show before it even began production.
Well, I think one thing that really helps with those types of shows is you have a writer's room filled with writers who know the show. And I know that you could easily say that, well, like, that's every show. You have a writer's room for every show, almost every show. And of course they know the show. You have a Bible, you have this, you have that, you have a producing director, you have this. And when you look at so many shows out there, whether they're dramas or sitcoms and everything like that, there's so many times you will see contradictions in character, in time, in events, in motivation. And you're just like, why would she say that? Why would they say that she never played organized sports when in 5 episodes later you see a flashback where she's on a hockey team?
Totally.
You know, like, or why would she do this when she hates her mother, or why would he do this if he cheated on his wife? Like everything like that. There's so many head scratchers, and that's because sometimes you'll have writers who you have a rotating room of writers where you bring in guest writers or you bring in spec scripts and everything like that, and you don't check your facts. But with shows like Babylon 5 and Breaking Bad and House of Cards and things like that, it is people who are obsessed with what they do and obsessed with their show, and they are fans. They are fans just as much as we are, except they get to craft the future while we just experience it.
Right. I mean, this is their lives, and they know it inside and out. It's a level of commitment that not every show has, so that when you do have it, I mean, it feels like magic. Because as fans, when we obsess over the show as much as they do, we know what level they're working at. And I think it helps appreciate the show even more.
Yeah, I completely and utterly agree. And I'm glad we will have to talk about Breaking Bad on Punch It.
Oh, yeah.
Because, if you look at some of our favorite our favorite dramas, the best thing about them is the writing besides performances.
Right.
It's just, and Breaking Bad is no different. Breaking Bad is a genius show. And as I said before, it has one of the greatest arcs in the past 20 years, if not ever.
Yes. I would go so far as to even say it's a masterpiece. From the writing to the acting to the overall execution, freaking incredible. Breaking Bad is not the type of show that I typically go for. I'm not a big fan of violence. I'm not a big fan of drug use, and certainly the show is not condoning it. And in fact, I think the message is how much it destroys people's lives. Mm-hmm. But I'm not usually attracted to that kind of a show. Well, that's how good it was that I got sucked in.
And that's the thing, is that like some people are probably saying like, oh, we're being hyperbolic, like you're just being, like you're just being fanboys or something like that. And it's like, no, that's the thing, is that one of our favorite shows of all time is Star Trek Voyager. Is it a masterpiece? No.
Not anywhere close.
Not even close.
Speaking of writers that didn't communicate, Voyager really had problems with its continuity sometimes, as we spoke in quite some detail over 4 years of another podcast.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to end, knowing that we're going to talk about Breaking Bad in the future. I mean, we continue this conversation about TV series finales. And
we'll have to reprise it.
I know, exactly. Like, even last week, we said, like, oh, let's just do it again next week. Now, we're not going to talk about it again next week, but we could clearly talk about this in the future.
Oh, definitely. And I would pretty much guarantee that at some point, yes, we will. Another thing that I do want to talk about that we don't have to touch on today, shows whose series finales are so good, and yet we've not watched the shows. And maybe we need to watch them.
I don't even know where to begin with that, so you'll have to inform me a little bit off air.
Well, for an example, The Wire. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't,
okay.
But everyone, it was kind of like hand-in-hand conversation with Breaking Bad. They're like saying, oh, this is the best crafted show since The Wire.
Yes.
You always heard since The Wire, since The Wire, since The Wire.
Yes, absolutely. I've heard, I don't know for how long and from how many people, just how good The Wire is. Yes, I know it's good, and I guess it has one of the best series finales ever. Maybe we should both watch this so that we understand what the heck we're missing.
I need to give it another shot, because I started watching The Wire. I started watching the first episode, and as I was watching it, I was just like, oh man, wait, how old is this show? I was like, when was this made? The 90s? Like the 91 or something like that? And then I look it up, and it was made in 2002. And I was like, holy crap, why does it look so old?
Well, I think we should task ourselves to give this show one more chance, because I watched probably the first handful of episodes of season 1 and then got distracted by other shows. It might have even been Breaking Bad, because I was watching it in 2013, just after Breaking Bad ended. So maybe it was that. But we need to go back, and we need to see what all this fuss is about.
I will think about it.
Do you think, or do you know?
I will think about it.
All right. Well, yeah, we could probably take this on till dawn, but I think this is a good stopping point. And so why don't you tell everybody where you can find us on the internet if they want to talk about their favorite shows, their favorite series finales, maybe suggest shows that we should possibly watch and talk about later at some point, because there's so much media out there. I know there's a gazillion things that we could be and maybe should be watching.
And we want to hear from you, so please go to thenerdparty.com/contact, select Punch It from the drop-down menu, and you can send us a note. You can send us an email, and we would love to hear from you because we want to know what's some of your favorite series finales, what's some of your least favorite series finales. And you can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thenerdparty, as well as on Twitter at Join Nerd Party. We love to hear from you guys. We really, 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 really do, because it is so much fun to interact and talk with you. And if you like us, please find us on iTunes and give us a review. If you give us a 5-star review, we'll mention you on the show. And Char, where can we find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at @OhTheProfanity. Where can people find you?
You can find me at The Insane Robin. And thank you so much for listening. And please tune in next week, where we're going to continue to punch it.
Ready for warp, sir. Let's punch it.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.